Whether you're beginning your day, winding it down, or just stepping away from the noise for a few quiet minutes, I appreciate you being here. Let's sit with something that sounds simple, but isn't. Today's quote is commonly attributed to Peter Kropotkin. Competition is the law of the jungle, but cooperation is the law of civilization. Now, just like we've seen before, the exact wording of this sentence doesn't appear verbatim in Kropotkin's published works, but the idea behind it is very much aligned with his thinking, especially in his 1902 book Mutual Aid, A Factor of Evolution. Kropotkin was a Russian geographer, philosopher, and political thinker. Interestingly, he was also a trained scientist who spent years studying animal behavior in Siberia. And what he observed out there in the harshest environments imaginable didn't match the popular narrative of his time. In the late 19th century, many intellectuals were leaning heavily on a particular interpretation of Darwin, the idea that evolution was driven almost entirely by ruthless competition. Survival of the fittest became shorthand for life as a battlefield. Kropotkin looked at the natural world and said, essentially, that's not the whole story. He noticed animals surviving not just through dominance, but through cooperation, herds protecting one another, species organizing collectively, communities working together to endure brutal winters. In his view, mutual aid wasn't a weakness, it was a survival strategy. That's the backdrop to this quote. Competition is a law of the jungle. That part feels familiar. We all recognize it. Competition pushes innovation. It sharpens skill. It forces improvement. It has a place. But cooperation is the law of civilization. That's the part that reframes everything. Civilization, by definition, requires structure. It requires trust. It requires shared systems, shared language, shared norms. You don't build cities through isolated rivalry. You build them through coordinated effort. And here's where this becomes more than a philosophical observation. We tend to glorify competition. In business, in sports, in career paths, in status. We admire the individual who outperforms everyone else. And there's nothing inherently wrong with striving. But competition alone doesn't sustain anything long-term. You can win a race through competition. You cannot build a functioning society through it alone. Hospitals operate through cooperation. Scientific breakthroughs often come from collaborative teams. Families survive through mutual support. Even markets depend on trust and agreement to function. Civilization is layered cooperation. Now let's be realistic for a moment. Cooperation isn't always easy. It requires compromise. It requires patience. It requires occasionally setting aside ego. It means recognizing that your success is often intertwined with someone else's. That doesn't make competition irrelevant. It just means competition isn't the final word. Kropotkin's perspective was controversial in his time because it challenged a growing social ideology that justified harsh inequality as natural. He was arguing that cooperation is just as natural, maybe more so, than conflict. And whether or not we adopt his full political philosophy, the underlying insight holds up surprisingly well. If you look at your own life, most meaningful progress probably didn't happen alone. Someone mentored you, someone collaborated with you, someone supported you, someone challenged you constructively. Competition may have sharpened you, but cooperation likely sustained you. So here's something worth reflecting on. In your current pursuits, are you operating only in competitive mode? Are you always trying to outpace, outperform, outshine? Or is there an opportunity to collaborate, to align, to build something collectively rather than individually? Because here's the subtle truth. Cooperation is not the opposite of strength. It's often an expression of it. The jungle might reward the fastest. Civilization rewards the connected. And if we're honest, most of us want to live in civilization. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me here at the Quotive Corner. If this reflection gave you something useful to think about, share it with someone who values thoughtful conversation. And remember, wisdom isn't in the quote, it's in the reflection. I'll see you in the next one.